May 18, 2015. Would you, in a minute, I'd ask you to join us in saluting the flag, and after that, if you'd kindly remain standing in memory of Alice Dumas. Alice was a van driver who passed away recently. She drove the van for the Council of Aging for over 30 years. Alice will be greatly missed by all those who had the pleasure of knowing her. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, public announcements. We'll start. Alex, you have any? Please.
Yes, since 1983, the Rotary Club of Abington has encouraged students to learn about nature by handing out 500 Douglas fir seedlings to students at Beaverbrook, Woodsdale, and St. Bridget School. This was done last week and is done every year during Arbor Week. A full set of planting instructions were included. Thank you to the Rotary Club for keeping this tradition alive.
Kenny?
I'd like to remind everybody what the weekend of June 13th and 14th on Saturday the 13th at 2 p.m. Will be the unveiling of the restored abolitionist stone on Memorial Arch at Island Grove, and that starts off the activities all day long. There's going to be a Civil War encampment at the Grove, including an evening lantern tour, camp activities. The bridge will be lighted by candles all night long, and then the following day we will try a new tradition in town and have a town-wide picnic at the Island Grove, and also a couple musical groups. I'm sure there'll be some kind of music to fit all musical tastes. So that's on Sunday the 14th. There'll be more details, and you'll probably read about it on Facebook and on the newspapers. So please, everybody, join us on 13th and 14th.
Andy?
Just a reminder that Monday, May 25th is Memorial Day, and the Memorial Day observances will be held in town beginning at 7:30 a.m., a ceremony at Laidlaw Field, 7:45 a.m., a ceremony at the Sergeant Richard A. Fitz Memorial, 8 o'clock a.m., a ceremony at the West Abington Cemetery, 8:45, a ceremony at the Island Grove Soldiers and Sailors Civil War Memorial Arch, and then the parade would step off at 10 o'clock a.m. at the ECC and proceed to the Mount Vernon Cemetery, where there'll be observances there as well.
Maureen?
Thanks, Mike. This is an announcement from the Abington Girls Softball Program. The Abington Girls Softball Program and its family has dedicated the 2015 Abington Girls Softball season as a tribute to the loving memory of Karen Needle. On March 24th, the Abington Girls Softball family and community lost one of its biggest fans and supporters. Karen Needle lost her battle with cancer. Karen cheered for the team on and off the fields. She will always be remembered as the ambassador of spirit. So the Abington Girls Softball team is selling Strikeout Cancer t-shirts for $20. All proceeds will go to Dana-Farber Cancer Institute for breast cancer research. As far as obtaining one of the t-shirts, I imagine you can get in touch with the girls softball program. There is some email addresses here, so I'll give you one of them. It's sunset0762@gmail, and that's Kim McCann. Thank you.
Thank you. First, I'd like to thank the Finance Committee, the petitioners, and the department heads who showed up at our last meeting. I think I could speak for the board that it was informative, and I appreciate them putting the time out for us. Also like to remind the residents that town meeting is June 8th at 7 p.m. The sooner we get a quorum, the sooner we get going, the faster we get out of there. I also spoke to Dory about putting the activities on the website so that the residents could look. We started the map, and the calendar and stuff like that. And also encourage the residents to, Memorial Day, it seems we get fewer and fewer people every year. I think it's a great way to show your kids respect for the people that gave us what we have. So you might consider to go one of these events. I think it would be great. Next on the agenda, anybody else have anything? All right, we have James Crosby, our Director of Veteran Services, presentation of refurbished MIA chair. James?
take some time to remember our prisoners of war and those who are still missing in action. My name is James Crosman, Director of Veteran Services for the Abington and Whitman Veterans District. This is Tom McCarthy, who works with me here in the district and mostly covers the Whitman office. So I'm going to have Tom say a few words about the chair, and I'll pick up after he left off.
Thank you. This chair was a piece of the history from the old town hall, was in the office that James took over, and was taken and refurbished. James did all the refurbishing, sanding down. There's the twin to the chair over here in the corner. So there was a lot of work put into it. It came out beautiful with the inlaid POWMIA coin in the back. And the plaque reads, "You are not forgotten. Since World War I, more than 91,000 service members are unaccounted for. This unoccupied seat is dedicated in the memory of those brave men and women and the sacrifices each made in serving this country. The POWMIA Chair of Honor is dedicated to the town of Abington." Thank you very much for allowing us
Thank
to
you.
come in and present the chair.
You have a group here. I don't know if I'd like you to recognize them if you could. I appreciate what you people have done.
Sure.
Yep, that's next on the agenda. This chair is very important, not because it looks good, but because of what it symbolizes. And I've been to a few of these, they call them honor chairs, POWMIA honor chairs in this state. And there's always a good group of people to show support. And they're here, some of them are here today. I won't mention all their names, but they're at a lot of veterans events. You know, they cover the state and other states. And I'm actually going to be riding down with them this weekend to visit some of our friends at Arlington National Cemetery. We've been doing that for a good number of years together. I'll be back for Memorial Day services. I'll be flying back. But I just think it's extremely important that we have dedicated Americans that are willing to, show the importance of what it is to really enjoy their freedom, and remembering those who paid the ultimate sacrifice in doing so. And this program is going, all around the country, and different people are participating in it. And I know Russ Forsyth was instrumental in getting the chair placed here in Abington, and Greg Glantz was the first person to take it to the town manager's office in Whitman, and he's here today. And we have people from Rolling Thunder here today, and other organizations that are at a lot of these events. And it really means a lot that the town that I work for, and both of the towns that I work for, are doing this, because as a veteran, fighting a war that is still going on today, it's hard sometimes to live in the world today when it's as easy as changing the channel and to forget about the hard things. So this will be a constant reminder in the town hall here in Abington, and thank you very much for allowing us to do so. And thanks again to everybody that's here to always support the veterans in the community, and thank you for showing up today. Thank you.
Absolutely. Why don't we take a 5-minute break, and again, I don't know if anybody from the board would like to comment or anything to say. But again, very much, thank you. You guys are great.
Thank you very
Appreciate
much.
what you've done.
Thank you.
Okay, so we'll be on break for 5 minutes. Okay. Whatever. If you guys want to come up here and sit, you're more than welcome. Okay, welcome back, everybody. At 6:35 under public appointments, we have public hearing for an above-ground storage flammables license at 1431 Bedford Street. I'll read the, just bear with me. The Board of Selectmen will hold a public hearing on Monday, May 18, 2015, at 6:35 in the Carter Hearing Room, 500 Glenowitz Way, on the application of Ron Castellino to rent above-ground storage space from Richard Pierce at South Shore Terminals, 1431 Bedford Street, to hold various size cylinders that can total 15,000 cubic feet of flammable gases or 1,500 gallons total of propane in various size cylinders. Open the hearing. Your motion.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Burbine,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Coyle. All in favor? All
Aye.
opposed? That's unanimous. The hearing is opened. We don't have the applicant here. Okay. Okay, do you just mind taking the podium for a minute in case there's questions? Would you please introduce yourself?
Yes, my name is John Amato. I represent Pax Air.
Okay. John, thank you. Welcome. Questions from the board? The town, Dory has given me the receipts from the letters that Mr. Pierce or Ron had sent out to the abutters. And do we have any abutters here? Obviously not. So questions from the board?
Can you just explain what the purpose of this is?
We supply all the plumbing supply houses, HVAC supply houses, for just regular small bottle acetylenes that they use for like torching, for, brazing and soldering and stuff. And then the propane is used for either motor fuel services or for, we also have nitrogen, supply of nitrogen just for the HVAC, all the plumbing supply local that we have in the business. Right now, we're currently residing in Canton near the railroad station, but obviously it's not really a safe place to be near a railroad station, so that's why we're moving.
Did you say you were in Canton?
Yes, Canton, yes, yes,
The operation had.
yes.
Okay. Any questions?
So this is all above ground?
It's all above ground, yes. It's all in the small little cylinders, small little, they call them B-size cylinders for the
I
trade.
thought the original application said something about underground?
It was an error.
Oh, okay, all
Yes.
right. Okay.
You're not gonna be filling like gas grill, propane tanks, that sort of stuff for,
Yeah, gas grill, propane. It's more for like for forklift trucks.
oh, okay. But if someone off the street wanted to get their gas tank filled for their,
We're not looking to service that. It's just really for the industry, for the...
sure.
Just more or less transportation.
Exactly, yes.
Storage and transportation.
Correct.
Maureen?
Does this require the fire chief or anyone
He has
making a
signed up.
comment?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, if I could,
Sure.
to that point, that both the fire chief and the building commissioner have no objections to the issuance of the license, but have advised our office that they do have to meet certain requirements during the construction phase, and suggested that the license be approved, but contingent upon the final sign-off by each of them that they've met those requirements.
Okay.
I would make that motion, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, why don't we just close the hearing, so technically. A motion to close the hearing?
Motion to close the hearing?
Maureen, seconded by Mr. Burbine, all in favor, all opposed, that's unanimous. Kenny, I'm sorry.
I'm not gonna make it now. I'll make that motion contingent upon the final inspections.
I have a motion by Mr. Coyle contingent on the final inspection, and second by Alex. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor, all
Aye.
opposed, it's unanimous.
Thank you very much.
you.
Appreciate your time.
Good luck.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a nice Memorial weekend.
Thank you. Okay, approval of the May under action discussion items, May 11, 2015, open session minutes.
Motion to approve the minutes?
I have a motion by Mrs. Jansen,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Coyle. All in favor, any further discussion? All in favor? All
Aye.
opposed?
I'm going to abstain, Mike, because I was not here.
You were not there, okay, all in favor, all opposed? It's 4-0, 1 abstention. Okay. And item 3 is Selectmen appointment of the Plymouth County Advisory Board. That's a position that Mr.
You missed one.
Number 2.
Number 2.
Oh. Appointments of Old Colony Elder Services Board of Directors, Suzanne DeJessberg.
Yes.
I think,
She currently holds that position now, does she not? It's just a yearly appointment?
Yes.
Reappointment?
She wants to continue there.
the only stipulation I would suggest is in a letter that they sent us, it says following recommendations from the Council on the Aging, which I don't think has been done yet, but certainly don't think there's any problem with appointing Suzanne and then getting the approval at their next meeting.
Sure.
Or desired, it's up to my colleagues.
Yeah, he mentioned that to me.
Just a technicality, so I'd accept a motion.
Motion to appoint Suzanne DeJessberg?
Motion by Maureen,
Second?
second by Mr. Burbine. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That's unanimous.
And it says here we need to send them a letter.
Right, we'll take care of that, Dory. Rick.
Clerk can do that.
Okay. Now, number 3, Selectmen appointment of the Plymouth County Advisory Board. That is a position that Mr. Dion held. I don't know if anybody wants to volunteer for that, or...
Alice just mentioned it, he would really like to do that.
I would actually like to
Okay.
take that.
That's fine. So, motion to appoint Mr. Bezanson as the Selectmen's appointment to the Plymouth County Advisory Board.
So moved.
Second?
Any further discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Right.
All opposed? That's unanimous. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Item 4 is Selectmen Policy Review. Selectmen's Policies and Procedures readopted. Which is, we had the original version in the packet, and then we had the renumbered, which we should identify which ones we want to do. I don't know if you want to do
Did
that.
the other one get printed out for us?
Mr. Burbine.
Oh, I've
Yeah,
got it.
this is,
Is it-
yeah. Nope, that's not the one. There's a number 4 on the top. Keep going the other one. This,
There should be the one, item number 4 on your packet.
Yes, it's
No,
entitled
behind.
Abington Board of Selectmen
Okay.
Policies and Procedures. There's actually 2 documents. One is
yeah,
the
should be
original,
2,
the other
yeah.
one is the, immediately following that is a document that's been marked up a bit, I think, by Mr. Burbine.
This is the one.
Those are suggested
Correct.
I got it.
Right.
amendments to it.
Right. And 2 of the, not to speak for Andy, but 2 of the key issues is, there's also a discussion in here about 2 policies that you have separately, one being public hearing policy, the other being appointment policy, so it seems redundant to have them in 2 places anyway,
Right.
so.
Right. How do you want to handle that? Mr. Burbine, you want to go over your suggested changes, or?
yeah, that's fine.
So
I think-
we're discussing this one first, the
Yes.
Correct.
Board of Selectmen Policy and Procedures.
You had the one, Alex, that was number 4. The first one was the original one, and the second one was
Right.
that Andy marked up.
Right. And the,
It says draft
Yeah,
revisions
yeah.
on it.
Yeah. You're on the floor, Mr. Burbine.
Okay, so if you go to page 2, Roman numeral 4.
Good question.
Yes.
You put brackets around 3. The second paragraph.
Yeah, I think that was just my own,
Okay.
but I had no change there. So, page 2, Roman numeral number 4, just proposed striking that last sentence in the first paragraph, only because the charter already provides for that.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, special elections if there's a vacancy, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if that's not really a policy, that's a charter provision, so that would be 1. Then if you go to page 3, second bullet down, I'm sorry, the first bullet down, these are the duties of the town manager. I recognize that his or her primary role is set policy with responsibility for day-to-day administration. I don't like the word delegated only because we're not delegating that to him. Again, that's a charter provision that he has that authority. So I just wanted to change that to resting with the town manager. It's kind of.
You're going to change it with resting with?
Yeah.
Okay.
And on the bottom of that page, Roman numeral number 7, it speaks to a clerk, which we don't have.
No.
I don't think we've ever had. So, when these were adopted back in 2006, I don't even think.
Yeah.
Did they have a clerk back then, do you know?
No, I always acted as the clerk for documents, but there was never a member of the board as clerk.
Yeah.
If I get paid, I'll be the clerk.
We don't want you to.
So I don't know if you want to remove that, or.
I'd
Might as
suggest.
well remove that.
You always have the option to, if you were without administrative support for any given time, you could deal with it then through, you wouldn't need to,
So we're going to remove that.
yeah, antiquated, yeah.
Go to page 5, Roman numeral 11. That deals with executive sessions. So it says that executive sessions shall be scheduled at the end of the open meeting of the board, and then I just added another sentence. Executive session may also be scheduled at times convenient to the board and in accordance with Massachusetts open meeting law.
So that more or less says we could do it anytime.
Yeah.
So
Not that
mix
you
it up.
can't, but I just, you know.
Well, that's a good point. 'Cause
Clarity.
if we would do it before, or just have a separate meeting for executive session, that's
Right.
I like that.
And then number 12 on that same page, Roman numeral 12. I think, this is my opinion, I think this is a little backwards. This says the town manager, in consultation with the chairman, shall approve the agenda. I think it should be the other way around. I think the chairman, this is our meeting, the chairman should be the one, in consultation with the town manager, approving the agenda.
I agree with that.
What?
Not there's a problem with the way it works.
No,
now.
but
I
I
think
just think
that's,
it's-
it's almost like it was a typo,
Yeah.
almost. There's a,
It's reversed.
right.
Now, do we want to take, wasn't there some discussion that our new chairman wanted to
There would be any.
get the agenda in earlier or something? Mike, didn't you want to?
Yeah, and actually, I think Dory would agree with me. It's worked out quite well. She's given me a pre-agenda on
Tuesday.
Tuesday. I usually forward it to Maureen for suggestions, and I'd forward it to everybody, but then you kind of get into an open meeting law thing. And it's worked out quite well, I
It
think.
has,
I think we-
absolutely.
So that's been happening, Kenny.
Yeah, I don't know that you want to put that level of detail in this type of
Right,
document,
no,
though,
you don't want to
because
handcuff boards later down the road.
And the only other change I suggested in there was that for members to put things on the agenda, we're supposed to have them in to the town manager no later than 4:00 PM. I said the town manager or the board chair. If that's okay.
Yeah, it actually, whoever is the chairman, it's their responsibility, the agenda, they could be held.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But that's fine.
And then page 6, Roman numeral 14. Get rid of it. As Rick said, we have another policy on board appointments, so I thought we should just take this one out and just deal with the one that we have, which is a separate policy to this.
Should remove all of 14?
Yeah, and just deal with the appointments under our separate policy.
Okay.
And then the same with page 8, Roman numeral 18, that deals with hearings before the board, but we already have an existing, another policy dealing with hearings also. I thought was take this one out and just continue using the one we've been using the last few years.
Should there be something that says, like, board appointments shall be consistent with the policy in place, or do we not even have to
I don't
have
think
it
so,
at all?
because this is a policy too, right? So
Okay.
these, I think it's just a.
Why prefer a policy
Yeah.
to a policy?
Yeah.
Got it.
Any questions?
Those are all my revisions.
Just on
Suggested
on
revision.
page 5, where it talks about agenda procedures, and we talk about the agenda be available to the public at noontime on Friday. Do we want to add and make it available online? We talk about the town bulletin board inside and outside, and I know that's old school, but, I mean, do we want to you know, we've been talking so much about the website and trying to get things online, maybe it would be, I think it'd be great to have it in our, you know, in our policy. Yeah,
Is it
exactly.
on there now, the agenda go on, like on Thursday? I will tell you this, I went on, somebody called me the other night about a zoning, when the next zoning meeting was supposed to be, and I went on, not to just look for the agenda, but the agenda was on there with all the topics and everything, so it...
Oh, yeah, we post with the town clerk and on the website. on
Yeah, so
Thursday.
that was very, very helpful, too. I've heard a lot of good people chiming in a little bit.
Good.
We got a long ways to go, but we're getting there.
Yeah.
So Kenny, was you saying you want to amend that and put in there that would also be on the website?
Yeah, I think so.
I think that's a good idea, yeah.
There's that.
Which one, Kenny?
The
page
bottom
5.
paragraph of on page 5, the agenda should be available to the public and the press by the Selectmen's office by noon Friday before the meeting, shall be posted on the town bulletin board inside and outside the town hall, and probably right.
As well as the town website.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, that's good.
Good stuff.
Okay, any further discussion? Any further comments?
Do we, I don't know if it's part of our procedures or whatever you want to call this, but we always, at the end of our meeting, it's been our practice, we've asked people in the audience want to talk, do we want to include that in there? Because we talk about relations with citizens, do we want to include that as part of this document?
We do have a policy on public comment.
Right, so that's a separate policy? Okay. All right.
And again, it's actually,
That was readopted.
I think you have to protect yourself in the town, because you don't want, you know, people go up and start ranting and raving or getting off topic, so to speak. So,
Right, especially with the open meeting law having been strengthened a few years ago, makes it a little bit more, difficult to, you can't act on anything unless it's an emergency, so it's
Correct.
best if these things can be scheduled.
and this is the Board of Selectmen's meeting, so to speak.
Yes.
You really don't have to allow for public comment. I know the newspaper doesn't like to hear that, but that is the fact. So,
And the bottom line is, there is a policy.
yeah, it is.
So that's
I actually brought it with me. How do you like that? Any further discussion? If not, I'd accept a motion to accept the policy as amended. Adopt the,
Make that motion.
I have a motion by Mr. Bezanson,
I'll second that.
second by Maureen. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor?
All right.
All right.
All opposed? That's unanimous. Thank you.
Nice work, Andy.
Okay, it's readopted. Selectmen's appointment and reappointment process. Now, you sent out one that we just got this evening that had some revisions on it, which was primarily just the website revisions, if I recall.
No.
No, it incorporated some of what was in the policy thing we just went over into our appointment policy, so basically, I think it was just paragraph number 1.
Correct, right.
That was the only change, I think.
Right.
Okay.
So that was directly from that policy.
So everybody has a copy of that?
What's that?
It's a written one. Okay, yeah, I have it somewhere.
Questions or comments?
I have a couple of comments, Mr. Chairman,
Sure.
and I thank you for putting this back on. I know you did review it in March, and I asked for it to be back on. I have a couple of concerns about number 8 and 9, and they're almost, you know, the same concerns. I don't like the idea of telling our volunteers, basically, that if you've served 2 terms, we're going to pass you by and appoint someone else. I think we're sending the wrong message to our volunteers. All these volunteers, as well as the Board of Selectmen, are not paid. Everyone's a volunteer. And I think that we're just sending the wrong message, saying that don't bother applying if you've been on 2 terms, because we're going to give it to somebody else. The policy says we shall give preference to a newcomer. And I don't think a policy should dictate how we vote. And that is telling us that we shall vote for a newcomer, and it's telling any Board of Selectmen in the future, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years down the road, that they shall vote this way. I don't like the wording of it. I think any one of us are free to vote as we feel. If we feel someone's been on too long or they're not doing a good job, absolutely vote them off. But I don't think we need a policy to dictate how we vote. And that's how I read this.
Mr. Burwine?
Well, Alex, I think number 8 speaks to, although there is no fixed limit on length of service, the length of service may normally be limited to 2 terms, 3 years in length. So it's not prohibiting anybody from serving more than 2 terms. It's just, in general, that's...
But number 9 is a little more specific, saying generally, if a person is serving the first term, they shall be given preference for a second. Conversely, if a person is completing a second term and there are other qualified applicants, preference shall be given to a newcomer.
Yep. If there are other qualified applicants. I think that's
Well,
the
qualified applicants who you think is a qualified applicant and who I think could be 2 different things.
I understood, but I think in that case, then you would say this person's not a qualified applicant, so I'm going to vote for the person who's been there for 2 terms. I think the whole purpose of this was to try to get new people involved.
And I understand that, and I agree with that, but I don't like the word term limits or any of that in here. I mean, we don't have term limits. I don't think we should impose that on our volunteers.
We're not imposing it. This is a
Technically, no, we're not, but we're strongly suggesting that that's how the vote goes.
And can I just, when we adopted this, I think Mr. Burbine and I, if I remember correctly, did a lot of research on this, and it was something, we wanted the people of town to know that there's no lock on any position or appointment. We have to run every 3 years. If the people don't like us, they vote us out. There's people, when I was served as moderator here, that would call me up, and this is a fact, would say, I'd like to get involved in the town, but I understand you can't get anywhere unless you're a townie. It's not true. So in order for the person to want to become involved, we put in that thing that if after 2 terms, it doesn't say you're going to get thrown out. I know there was people that ran around and said that. That was never said. That was never the intent. The intent was for the person to feel comfortable that they would be considered. And that's all it was to it. It was just that there's nobody on a board or commission in the town of Abington, unless it's for a specific event, like the centennial or something, that is appointed for that period of time. There's always a 3-year, and usually on a rotating, so you don't replace the whole board. So I never took offense to that. I know some people did, to say that they automatically would be thrown out. No, it doesn't say that. Quite frankly, not too many people in town that really know that this exists. It just, but we put it there so that we could, it's not an automatic reappointment. If you come in here, and there's people that want to get on that board, there's people that have the qualifications, that, yes, we should encourage people to become involved. That's not to say that if they don't have the qualifications, they might be able to want to go on another board or something. We're not getting inundated with resident volunteers.
And that's exactly my point. I mean, anyone that applies to any board, practically, in the last 20 years that I've been involved, has been appointed.
Right.
No, well, that's not the case, Alex. We've had...
Well, I know in conservation, we've never had anyone denied.
We've had a number of people, multiple applicants for particular positions, where we've had to make a decision between 3, 4, 5 people for 1 position, 2 position, 3 positions. So there are a number of people who don't get appointed. We've had it with the school committee. We've had it with the Conservation Commission. The last time we had to appoint 5 people, I think there were 11 people who actually applied for those particular positions. So there are people who do not get appointed. And again, I think, to Mike's point, I think this was to try to foster more people to get involved, because there were people who were feeling that it doesn't make any difference if I do put an application in. These are just routinely reappointed, not really a lot of thought given. We're just, if they're serving on the committee and they ask to be reappointed, they get reappointed automatically. And I agree with Mike, that's not the way it should be. This is one of the most important things we do as a board now. We don't run the day-to-day operations. We set policy, and we have some appointment authority over some really important boards. And I think we have to make sure that we are diligent in looking that good people get on there and that we go out and recruit good people. And that's all I think this is trying to do.
Well, I still don't like the wording where we shall give preference to anybody. I think everyone should be given equal preference when they apply for a board. And if I can move on to number 14.
Well, can I?
I'm sorry.
Can I touch upon those issues a little bit, Mr. Chairman?
Sure.
I have no problem with 8. It just basically states that, there's no fixed length on service, but it's normally 2 terms. At that point, you've made a statement, you've done your work, you've done your job, you've, served long enough. I mean, basically, when I've been involved in the town, 2 terms is pretty much my limit. But I do have a problem with 9, but I have the problem both ways. Generally, if a person is serving a first term, they shall be given preference for a second. Well, if the person's not doing a good job, I don't want to give them a preference for a second, So I would have no problem with eliminating 9 completely, but I like the idea of 8. You're not telling them, sorry, your 2 terms are up, you're out, but it's basically saying 9 it's basically taking 9, but saying it a different way. So if you take 9 out completely and leave 8 in, I would have no problem with that.
I would have no problem with that either.
That'd be fine by me.
Me too.
And Alex, what was the other one?
Yeah, the other one is 14. What was the intent of 14 where non-residents may serve on a committee when the board deems it in the best interest?
Can I?
Yes.
I actually looked at that today, and I thought to myself, and this is hopefully a perfect example, and maybe the charter says they can't do this, but we're having problems with the Historical Commission filling the slots, and that's their appointed board. And we have no better candidates than Doug Ulrich. He would be great. However, he's not registered to vote in Abington. He has a residence in Abington, and I would love to get him on the Historical Commission. I don't know if the charter says it has to be an Abington resident or not, but that would just be one small example, I think, that, and then we also have committees like the School Building Committee. Well, if we have someone that's planning on moving to Abington or just left Abington, and they're on the committee, I'd hate for them to have to get off the committee because they move. So I think that's an example.
Well, that's a good point, because there actually are, the school administrators who are part of the committee are non-residents of that committee, so they are serving.
I agree with those points. I would just hate to see at some point somebody from out of town be appointed to the zoning board, conservation commission, or one of those. I have no problem with historical
that would
or school building committee.
Some of that might be governed by statute, too, I'm not sure, but...
They're making policy and stuff, I can see.
I mean, we could add at the end of 14 with a preference, we're talking about preferences, we're eliminating the preferences in 9, but we could say with a preference to Abington residents, I mean, if we felt strongly about that, sorry.
I'm saying, I like it just because you just, depending on the board, depending on the situation, if someone has a particular skill, particular expertise, and you want them, and we feel it's in the best interest, I would be okay with 14 as written.
Even on a zoning board, conservation commission?
I would hope.
That would be an
That
exception.
you'd have to prove that
Yeah.
for some reason they were an expert above, beyond what we
So could
provide.
we maybe put in there with preference to Abington residents or something like that?
But where would you put that? I mean, right now, this just gives the option, number 14 just gives the option to the board, if you think it's in the best interest of the town, to put somebody on a particular board or committee.
I would hope that the Board of Selectmen would act.
Exactly.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's what our job is to do, the best interest of the town, so I don't have a problem with the way it's written.
Yeah, I'm comfortable with the way that is, quite frankly. I mean, I know on the tricentennial, we had people from out of town serving, but they filled a void. They were, they had certain expertise that would, I agree with you,
I
but I think it
definitely
would be a
agree
shame.
with Kenny on those points, but like
Yeah.
I said, conservation, zoning,
No.
and
They
I
don't
know
belong
what
there.
else. I mean,
Yeah, you're right.
you want Abington residents on those boards.
Yep.
I would agree, Finance Committee.
Yeah, I think that would almost take care of itself, because if you had people from out of town that was making decisions for townspeople. I think the people of town would raise up and say, listen, you don't even live in Abington, what are you trying to...
No, I can live with that.
All right, so I think I'd accept a motion to adopt or re-adopt this as presented, except we were going to, Mr. Coyle, motion to remove number 9. Is that okay with everybody?
Just, that includes the recommendations of Mr. Burbine in number 1.
Yes, in the first paragraph, yes. Yeah.
Everybody comfortable with that?
I'll second that.
Motion?
Kenny's motion, I second.
Okay. Mr. Coyle, Mr. Bezanson, second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That's unanimous. Thank you. Okay, we have a discussion on the current volunteer application form and announcement of vacancies. So that's item number 5 in your packet. And administration provided us with the current application and a proposed suggested revisions. And I think I gave each member, I took something off the internet last night that you might want to consider, and I know it was a much, much shorter form. It's kind of the way I liked it, but that was me.
Yeah, where is that town, by the way?
That's a good,
New Jersey.
that's a good question.
Pronounce it.
But it's, again, it's up to the board. I only brought that up so just for consideration.
This is just a one-pager, the one for...
Right. Some of them, I was speaking with the town manager too. Some of them really had great opening introductions and asking the citizens, and we're talking to the citizens right now. We really rely on volunteers in this town. We're heavily reliant on volunteers. Please, some of the vacancies and stuff we have, through my experience, you get to know some of the finest people by serving as either in the youth groups as an umpire or something, or serving on some of these boards. You meet some great people, but you also serve a purpose. It's a shame to have some of the vacancies that we have right now, and I think that if people gave it a shot, you know, that did really enjoy it. And, but anyways, we do have a form that's available. It's going to be on the website. We're going to go over some boards and commissions that have vacancies right now. And technically speaking, all boards and commissions have vacancies. It's just like if 2 members of the Board of Selectmen want to rerun for the office, it's not a lock. You could have a 3rd or a 4th or a 5th person to put their name in and go for the same thing. So it's not something that I will say it again and again. The hardest thing I do is to sit here with 3 fine people all vying for the same office and have to vote publicly for one of them. It's very difficult because since my involvement with this board, you could have voted for anyone there and it would have been fine, you know, but, all right, so get off the talk, off the pulpit, I'm sorry.
So have we gotten any other applicants since this was?
Just one today.
So are you looking for a vote on the new form? I actually like the one that you've got from
I do too.
Me too.
Lopatcong.
I just made that town up, it's actually Rockland.
But I like that, you know, depends on, it goes in, it talks, depends on volunteers for its boards, commissions, and committees, you know,
I
I
like
think
that, too.
it's a great thing.
Even, a couple of the ones I saw in there, Kenny, was they weren't just looking for volunteers on boards and commissions, they were looking for people that might want to volunteer some of their time in the library, the police department, the fire department, specifically. Obviously, that was much more detailed and would certainly be up to the department head, not this board.
Yeah.
But it left the option open to the people who had some time in their hands and they wanted to get down and do some sorting or do some helping in the town clerk's office or something. You know, it would be up to the department head, but they certainly would be welcome to fill out the form and you know, have them interviewed, so to speak. That's probably down the road. So
I think we should make it as easy as possible for people to volunteer. And
I do, too.
And you got a 9-question questionnaire. I mean, I like the ideas because then you can find the people's skill set, however.
I think that's important.
I agree.
That's important,
I agree.
especially for some of these, again, for zoning, conservation, those type of boards. I think you need to have a little more background than just
I think if we can combine these two
Yeah,
into,
if you can combine.
Yeah, I think,
I think our computer subcommittee could do this, do a good job at this.
This computer subcommittee has wait until after town hall, after town meeting, I think we.
Then we're gonna hit it hard, though.
That's fine. I would suggest that we do the revised application because we're looking for members now. Our appointment is going to be sometime in June, and we're not going to have enough time to get done in time. Is that,
I don't have a problem with this revised one, the two-page, you know, I think,
You wanna-
you know, we want to know their skills if they're going on these boards. I don't think that's unreasonable.
Do we want to take the revised one and just quickly put in, the blurb like they have up here? Put that in quick, and then just keep the other thing, it'll still keep it to 2 pages.
So that heading
Yes, to
paragraph,
provide,
yeah, I think that would be good, yeah.
revise that, like
Yeah.
up here, this, then this, then this.
Yeah.
Wouldn't be difficult to do that.
no, you want to
Amend that
let the
quickly.
people know, and I don't think people realize how much we really do rely on resident volunteers. It's our town, we govern our own town, so. That's fine. So Maureen's suggesting that we take the opening paragraph.
From what town? What's it called again, Mike?
Looks like something I used to see when I was overseas.
Lepackton Township, in New Jersey. We
Um,
can amend that quick.
Yeah, that's just one paragraph, right?
Yeah, and then, I don't know, Maureen, we probably could take and do a little bit, put that on the website once you get going again. Is that all right with everybody?
Yep.
Sure.
Agree with that? So I'd accept a motion for Maureen's amended, to put this on the top of our revised.
Is this just revised for this year, and then we'll work on it to get a better looking one, or you think you want to hang on to this one?
Yeah, I think we should. After what I saw, Kenny, there's all kinds of good stuff on here.
Good.
Yeah.
Stealing other people's ideas, but,
Absolutely.
That's what you
okay, so I would accept a motion.
So moved.
I'll second that.
Motion by Mr. Coyle,
No, Mr. Burley.
second by Mr. Bezanson. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That's unanimous. The appointments. I spoke to Rick today about the possibility, I would not want to make the appointments the night of town meeting. So my suggestion would be to have a meeting, well, there was a couple things that I don't think we've discussed the articles yet as a board. We could discuss the articles, we could make our appointments, and we need an executive session. Not this coming Monday, but a week from Monday, I forget the date.
We could do it just for regular appointments.
Yeah, June 1st, I think it is. If that's amenable to everybody. Doesn't have to be Monday night, but it's usually, do we know if this room's open, Dory?
It is.
It is,
We
okay.
made sure of it today.
It was, yeah.
You gotta follow our own
It wasn't,
policy.
That's
but
right.
it is now.
That's right.
Yeah.
We made accommodations, Mr. Chairman.
So that's what I'd like to do, and if the residents were interested in that, we have until June 1st. And the vacancies will be on the website, as will the application. Or you can call any member of this board, or,
Did it today.
So
Town hall.
the timing
It's on the website.
works for there's enough time for the school committee candidates?
that's different, that's something, that's a good question, but that's something we were gonna get into next, is
We need
that
more
we
than-
possibly could have that meeting then, I don't know.
Oh, you're talking about the appointments for the, I'm sorry.
I'm talking about the regular
Vacancies.
appointments
All right, all right.
talking
to the committees, I'm sorry,
The regular appointment's June 1st?
June 1st.
Okay.
If you guys agree. I mean, I
No,
don't-
that's fine.
And how about on the Board of Health and the Water Commissioners? Would we be able to, would we have the right timing to do that on June 1st also?
School committee, you mean?
School Committee and
No.
Water?
No,
No.
just miss it by a day, I think. It's
We have
gonna be-
Board of Health, too?
No, unless Mike knows something.
Well, I mean, would we, let me ask you this, would we be better off to meet on a Tuesday or a Wednesday and accommodate the appointments to the School Committee, the Water Commissioners, do our budget work in the reappointments?
I mean, instead of the first, meet during the, like,
Yeah,
Well,
what's the
Dory
date
said we
when
missed it
we
by
have
one
them?
day.
I think so today's the 18th, so it has to be more than 14 days from today. So June 1st would be the 14th day. And the charter
Either
says,
the second or the third.
yeah.
How about, is that
That would
actually
actually,
you guys?
I actually supposed to do something on the 1st, so that would actually be better for me, but that's just.
So Tuesday or Wednesday, what's a better night?
Doesn't matter.
Whatever day.
It's Finance
Choose
Committee
something.
meeting on Wednesday, the 3rd. They usually have the room on the 3rd. But they're going to have all their recommendations, I think, done by then, so.
Oh, Tuesday.
Tuesday, the 2nd?
Sure.
You all right?
Do you know if the room's open now? Again?
We'll check.
Plus, you'd have to let
I
the other
don't-
boards, the school and the water know, right?
Right.
Because that's
If
joint.
there's a problem,
Either way.
why don't we look at it? We can notify.
Right.
Everybody seems to be fairly flexible. Kenny is busy on Monday. I think the rest of us are available. It's going to rain Tuesday, so,
All right, so we'll shoot for June 2nd then.
yeah. And then just check with the school committee and the water department, water commissioners, if they would be
Right.
And
amenable
would
to
you
that.
have to repost this now?
Yeah, because
The
it was
date
posted
says
today
June.
with the June 8th date.
Or you did?
Well, we haven't posted a meeting yet at all.
No, I know.
No,
but
no,
as
the
far as the notice
vacancies.
for the
The
vacancies for the
vacancies.
school committee and
Yes.
the water commission, you have to repost that.
I understand.
Due dates, right?
Right.
And
So
just
maybe
so
Wednesday would be better, just to give it an extra
everyone in
day.
TV land
It's
knows
June 8th.
that we have these
You make
vacancies,
the appointment on June 8th.
2 for school committee
So we
and
can
1
update the posting, okay.
for the water commission for unexpired terms.
All right, I didn't know what he was.
They should know. This is on our website, too?
It is. It's on the front page right now. It was
Okay.
put up
All right,
today.
so we'll update
Good.
that.
It's a link.
So we should have it.
So did we settle on the 3rd or the 2nd?
Second.
Second,
Second.
Tuesday the
It's
2nd?
I
posted
think you were
tomorrow.
suggesting, would Wednesday,
As long as they have a time to get it posted.
Okay.
that's all.
All you're doing is
And get in touch with the water commissioners and
Oh, yeah, yeah,
just
yeah,
change
yeah.
school committee.
Right. Oh, okay.
that'd be great.
Perfect.
Leave it in your hands.
No.
Second or the third, I guess, would be fine.
Yeah, because that'll give us time to go over the articles.
Yeah, it doesn't matter, yeah.
And we need an executive session that night, is it your
Yes,
intention?
yes, and I will check with council. Council was going to be available on the 1st, but I will see what other nights.
So
he's
6
available.
o'clock would have executive
Correct.
session, and then would go into our regular,
Correct.
okay. Sounds good.
You're available. The second.
All right, so we don't need a motion on that. 7 is setting the special and annual town meeting warrants for constables posting. Rick, anything special on that, or?
No, the only thing is, there's been no vote yet to officially post the meetings and the actual warrants. There are still some review going on by council, but most of that is complete. In fact, some of it has to do with combining some of these, rescinding some of the debt issuances in the past that's on the special. Council's recommending we could actually consolidate that into one article instead of having several. But from a substantive standpoint, that's really about it. But we do need your authorization to actually physically post a special and an annual town meeting warrant, and that has not been happened yet. So it's my understanding that if you vote that tonight, and then we'll provide the final warrant after town council's recommendations are incorporated, and that's what you'll be, both the selectmen and the finance committee would be acting on in your future meetings.
Fine, so we'd need a vote to special town meeting on Monday, the 8th of June, 2015, at 7 PM in the evening.
Right, to approve the special and the annual town meeting warrants, subject to any changes advised by town council. Might work.
And that
Yeah.
that warrant would be what's labeled number 7 in our packet. Is that the most recent one?
Yes.
Everybody all right with that?
The special has 12 articles, right?
Yes, and
Right.
there will be less than that once we consolidate the rescinding debt.
And the annual had 31.
Is it, you can't change the time here from 7:30 to like 7:20, say. In a unlikely event that we got a quorum at 7, it's a lot of times a special town meeting, you just fly through it.
We could change, we could
I mean,
make it
I don't
7.
know what you think, and I know you could be left hanging.
Special town meeting is at 7.
Just,
Yeah.
And the annual's at 7:30.
Yeah,
hey, why don't you go to 7:15 then?
yeah.
I mean, if we had a quorum,
When you get finished?
although it does take Sean about 15 minutes to read all the, no. But seriously, we could
Yeah.
move that right along. Okay, so,
I would move we post a special and the annual town meeting warrants as provided to us tonight in our package.
I have a motion by Mr. Burbine,
I'll second that.
second by Maureen. Any further discussion?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Now, if I had a serious problem with one of these articles, should I bring it up now?
Well, we're going to be talking about that on the 2nd.
Right.
Was one of the reasons I spoke with the town manager today, and
But if I didn't want one of these articles on there?
Should bring it up now.
Yeah, now would be a
Article
time to
8.
bring it up, yeah.
Of the special town?
Yes, special.
Special.
And I'm going to get myself in a bunch of trouble here, but, because I'm on this committee,
Flag Day.
but it's sponsored by the Board of Selectmen,
Oh, yeah.
so I have a problem with taxpayer funds to be used for celebrations. I voted against it at several town meetings when we've had, I think it was one year for the St. Patrick's Day Parade, another year for fireworks, and I voted against it. I just feel really strongly that taxpayer money should not be used for, I know it's an unveiling, and I know that the town voted to, provide the funding along with grants for the memorial arch work and the stuff like that, but I would just have a problem with tax money, and I don't, maybe I'm privy to a little more information, I don't know what they need all this money for. I'm not saying that people are wasting the money, because it's gonna go to good use, but I just have a problem with that. So that I just want to get that out there now, and especially when it's being sponsored by the Board of Selectmen, and really,
Fair enough.
was it a petition, was it a petition? It was brought to you, it was brought forward by,
By Mr. Ulwick,
Okay.
who was, as you know, working to
I know I'm
coordinate
gonna
the
hear
events.
about this, I'll probably get phone calls now, my phone's great now, but I just I have a problem with it. Taxpayers' money shouldn't be used for this sort of thing. That's the way I look at it, especially when times are tight, so, that's all I have to say.
Is there any money left over from the bridge, the arch, I mean? Or is that,
There, yes, but those are funds that are being borrowed. Those are not raise and appropriate funds that we could transfer from line item to line item.
So I don't know how the board feels
so
about it, but
what's the cost and what's the $5,000 going for? What,
I'm sure you'll hear about it on the town meeting floor.
So what costs $5,000, I think is the question.
yeah.
Mr. Ulwick suggested that in the event that there was a need to pay dignitaries or speakers who may be, historical speakers, at the time he submitted this, or asked us to submit this, he actually wasn't sure himself, but we did have a deadline for submitting warrant articles that needed to be respected too. So I'm sure we can get an update from him as to whether or not he has any anticipated expenditures, but again, one issue is whether or not you agree to post it, the other issue is whether you agree to recommend it, or you withdraw it at town meeting as unnecessary, or, that's completely your call.
Well, personally, I don't think the Board of Selectmen should be doing that. I mean, if this was a petition article, then I would probably view otherwise, but having my name attached to it, I'm not in favor of.
Fair enough.
Just because I've been involved in it, yeah. I just want to let you know what the funding is for, also for lighting and sound and getting power out to the bandstand. And there's actually a utility pole that's being moved, that's right at the arch. It's kind of like an eyesore. It's being moved 25 feet. So there are definite expenses, just for your knowledge, just so you're aware. That's where the $5,000 came from.
But whether or not, some of those expenses you might consider would be particular, facility money that are,
Yeah.
should be spent by the town anyway, and some
Right.
of those, again, were kind of a contingency against what could happen or what other expenses may come up, so. I certainly appreciate most of the time, it's very definitive exactly what money is being proposed for, so it was a request by Mr. Ulwick under conditions at a time and place when we had to meet deadlines for submitting warrant articles. So whatever your preference is, certainly no objections from us. That's not the issue here.
Go ahead. In light of that, I mean, if things are going to be changed up there for the better of the town, in other words, we're moving a light pole to illuminate certain things, especially we want to make sure this this structure gets preserved and doesn't get destroyed. So if we're talking about moving lights, I mean, that's one thing, but to buy bunting or to pay for a band or to pay for a sound system, I would not be in favor of. But if it's something for the upkeep of our historical landmark up there, then that's, you know, I
Could
feel
we get a
different about it.
breakdown of what the 5,000 is going to be
We will
spent on?
request an update from Mr. Ulwick on that, because as I mentioned, when he submitted this, even he wasn't sure exactly what all those costs might look like, or if there would be private donations. But again, like I've repeated, just trying to beat deadlines in fairness to meet the board's requirements for the warrant.
And I can tell you, we met with National Grid, and they gave us a ballpark figure of 5,000 to 6,000 to move the one pole. Just an estimate, but we can get more specific.
Yeah.
You know the pole, I know the pole they're talking about. It's like a street light.
It's a street light, and it's right there.
Basically, right at the end of the
So
bridge.
you move 25 feet to the right.
Just to
Just
your
one.
point, Kenny, sometimes, I did go over to that, the events they had in the evening, and they had the Civil War enactment and stuff. There was a lot of people that used, Abington people. They had lights, they had candles, they did a whole lot of work. I know what you're saying about taxpayers' money, but sometimes, like, for parades and different things like that, Memorial Day parades, we have the police that monitor that. We've had funerals where police and fire are involved, public safety. I think if I'm making a decision on what's in the best interest of the town, I know exactly what you're saying, but I'd kind of lean towards, listen, this is a town event, let's do it right. It's only, you know, it's quite an honor to have, we spent a lot of money on the arch and then the Soldiers and Sailors Monument. And if you looked at what Doug has put together there, it's pretty impressive. It's going to be, you know, a town-wide picnic. That's part of the funding. I mean, there's a lot going into this, not just the unveiling.
Well, I'm well aware of what's going into it. I've been on the committee, so I'm well aware. And I don't want to misconstrue.
No,
I'm not talking about a
I take
Memorial
your
Day
point.
parade. I'm talking about the St. Patrick's Day parade and fireworks. I'm not talking about,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. So, all right, that's fine.
So at
You're
this
going to get a
point,
breakdown.
Yeah, if you can get us a breakdown,
yeah.
why don't we leave it in there, and then if we don't like what comes
can
back
take
with
it
the
out on
breakdown,
the
we could
second
always
one.
say we're not.
Certainly.
And I
We
just
could
had,
always withdraw it if we wanted to, actually. at that
Yeah.
time.
I just had to leave for 1 minute. I want to call Kenny Coyle's number.
Yeah, we'll be happy to take another 5-minute break.
No, I understand what you're saying, Mr. Coyle, you- certainly. Okay, so we're all set with number 7?
We didn't take the vote yet, though, right?
No, I think there's a motion.
We
and
had a
second.
motion.
Yes.
so-
Motion and Maureen and second. Any further discussion? And, you know, my mistake, if anybody does not want to put a specific article on the warrant right now, I guess this is the time to bring it up.
That's right.
Yeah. Well,
That's why I did it.
That's why I did.
Are you making that note?
Did they take a vote?
Okay, everybody all set then?
You want to take the vote?
Yes, motion and seconded. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That's unanimous. Number 8, Rick?
I'm just sorry, if you could just review who made the motion and second, just for our notes here.
Andy and Maureen seconded.
Thank you. Yes, sir. The budget update, as you know, I did provide another update to the board over the weekend, which had a couple minor changes from our prior, from the one last week. Those are specifically having to do with the snow, not the snow, the waste collection budget, which was being just under review, negotiations with the vendor, and with the exception of a potential fuel adjustment, the contract is going to look very similar to last year, so we're happy about that. The other issue is moving some funds from into the town accountant's salary line item. I'm sorry.
Town clerks,
I'm sorry, the town clerk. What did I say?
town accountant.
I'm sorry, town accountant, to the salary line item, and this is one of those issues that's a little bit, I don't want to say it's tough, but going back to the first budget I put out in January, I did mention that that's really probably one of the more fundamental administrative weaknesses in the town right now. So, as it happens, in conversations with our school administration, they actually suggested that they might have another assignment that can help reduce their cost of trying to hire another teacher. And keep in mind, they're not adding staff; they're just restructuring due to some retirements. And so the $15,000, and actually $15,034, has been shifted from the school budget with their knowledge and consent to help staff the town clerk's office full-time. And, there's a lot of reasons why we can go into, but one of the concerns that I think that has been illustrated in the last several months due to two special elections in particular, well, one special and another regular town election, is, the office really needs to be open when town hall's open. And at times, that can't be the case for whatever reasons. People need to, when they register to vote, when they vote absentee, those are some of the fundamental areas that need to be, that the town needs to be responsible for. So that's the only two changes, actually three if you consider the slight reduction in the school budget from the budget you've seen the last couple of versions. So this has been transmitted to the Finance Committee also, and I suspect that the board will have some questions either, along the way. I know members have posed questions, and I expect more. Some of the questions that had been raised prior, I've addressed in last week's budget update. I'm happy to reiterate those at a future time. So, but if you want to give it a look again and pose any questions either via email or give me a call, I'd be happy to try to address any questions or concerns. Well, obviously, one of the major concerns is the recommendation to, at this time, defer some of the snow and ice deficit, approximately $470,000 of that, until we know exactly what our FEMA reimbursement's going to be to offset that. The other point I will make is that on the page that's actually labeled, it'd be the fourth page in the packet, deficit reduction worksheet, for lack of a better terminology, there's, if you look at that, it would indicate there's $107,000 available still to be for expenditure. We've heard about paper deficits. That's a paper surplus, because again, that the option, we could simply reduce the amount that we would defer hypothetically by that amount, or that would effectively, if this budget stood as it's recommended, become next year's certified free cash, which we would use at a special town meeting to pay off the remaining deficit at that time. So it's really a matter of form over substance, but I wouldn't want anyone looking at this thinking we have $107,000, because we don't. So certainly any comments or preferences the board might have for dealing with that. I guess the biggest concern that both me and the finance team, particularly the school administration, have is that until we're certain as to what the FEMA reimbursement is, you're really getting into the meat and bone if you're making other reductions at this point without we may not have had to make. So that's really the concern. Once we know what the FEMA reduction is, reimbursement is, minus whatever we can. If the board chooses or wishes, again, form over substance, to reduce the amount by this fake surplus, whatever those amounts are, we would intend to cover the balance with free cash in the fall, or when we have a special town meeting to fund the few capital items from the general fund. That I know I know particularly Andy has raised concerns about deferring that, and there is something that doesn't sit right, I think, fundamentally with all of us that have balanced budgets for so long. But it is a sizable number that we expect to be getting from FEMA, probably at least in the 200,000 plus range. That's still being discussed as to eligibility, and there's meetings, in fact, I think tomorrow. By being hosted on that subject alone. So that's why at this point, it's hard to believe we're not going to have a FEMA reimbursement before town meeting. So that's the fundamental reason. It's not to defer this for 3 years. It's to simply defer what we have to until, at the very latest, we have a special town meeting and can pay off what we know the deficit is minus a FEMA reimbursement.
Rick, have all the vendors been paid?
Yes.
They've all been
have,
paid,
right.
though, for the snow?
Yes.
Okay.
So I know that's one of the toughest pills for many of the board members to swallow, but I certainly, I know you understand the logic in that, whether or not it's, how you feel about that. But give it some thought, and, if you, I know on our meeting on whenever the date is, the 2nd or the 3rd, whatever it ends up being. But in the meantime, again, any questions, concerns, continue the phone calls and the emails. And
Okay.
Were we able to increase the snow removal budget for FY16?
There's nothing additional in there from the current fiscal year. One of the things and I mentioned this in the past too, that we had hoped, in January, we were licking our chops at the opportunity to move some of those funds that we generally reserve for the deficit, for the over expenditure, actually physically into the actual budget. You know, certainly it would be nice to do that. I would like to start making some progress there too, but at this point of the budget process, it comes at a cost elsewhere. Without having, you know, as you know, we don't get final new growth figures until well into the early in the fiscal year, so it's beyond the town meeting time period. So unless we're going to hold a special town meeting before we actually are prepared to set a tax rate, that would provide maybe an opportunity to do that. But I know that's tends not to be with the practice of Abington and most towns.
So, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
So it appears that what we're planning on doing is for the third straight year borrowing from anticipated free cash. Is that, I mean, 2 years ago, was it 475? Remember what it was?
Well, well, just to,
And then this year it's 300,000.
I'm sorry?
We're borrowing from free cash, right? For pay snow.
Okay, again, this year, the current fiscal year, we used $240,000 from stabilization.
Okay.
Okay, so
And
the
then
goal in this
reimbursement,
budget is $250,000 goes right into stabilization at the special town meeting. That's the first, and again, that's the advice of, you know, both our treasurer and our financial advisors to make sure that we close the books on the current fiscal year as strong as possible, therefore rescinding debt, restoring stabilization. And then, once we know exactly how much we have to pay, we'd prefer to keep stabilization whole and be able to use certified free cash this coming fall from the current fiscal year when it's closed out to pay down any remaining snow deficit. So.
Right, King?
I'm sorry?
Yep.
Oh, yeah. Oh, and just, also, just so anybody who's watching is confused, you should be, because snow and ice is a confusing topic. We actually, in a backwards way, budget $400,000 for a snow over expenditure. So we're not proposing that we don't use the funds, the $400,000 that we had began the process with, because we do spend $500,000 every year on average in snow and ice removal. So we budget 100 and we pay 400 the following year. So we would all like to start shifting that little by little. Again, it's just a matter of the opportunity to do that based upon, you know, we don't want to use fake numbers to inflate a budget. So I think we're all feeling the exact same way. It's just a matter of how and when can we start to change that dynamic a little bit. I mean, and how much is relevant. I mean, a token amount doesn't really fundamentally change much unless we could, go from $100,000 to $150,000 per se. It doesn't fundamentally change much. So.
No, but if you got onto a routine of upping it over the next 4 or 5 years,
50,
to get
50,
to,
50.
you know, to get to I think, what do we average, about 300, 350?
No, we average 500,000 a year.
Has it been, really?
Yeah, it's we did
Oh, we can't take this year, that doesn't count. That's
No, actually, it was prior to this year. That's why we actually budget $400,000 for an over expenditure that we kind of hold off as available revenue for the budget process. So.
So when would you think we would be having a special town meeting in the fall?
Well, I don't know what the town's history is, but my understanding is usually there's been an October meeting where after the free cash was certified, that the town would deal with its capital needs with free cash, as well as put any money in the bank, so to speak, from free cash. Also, that would be the time we could pay down the deficit. And realistically, at that time, we would certainly hope that that the tax bills are out and the tax rate setting process is behind us and the recap is done and we're actually not really dealing with FY16 anymore. But to the extent that the town was in a position to put money towards snow removal at that time from free cash, but that doesn't necessarily help us in FY17 in terms of the budget process.
No,
so.
it doesn't, but you still,
Yeah.
you gotta
I know.
meet it at some point in time, because it just gets bigger and bigger and
Right.
bigger.
I mean, $100,000 is the town's budget, and that's probably enough for initial road material purchase before, when it's still sunny out. So it's a problem that the town's had for some time.
It is.
And we do need, I don't disagree with you at all. If it's, yeah, I mean, certainly I don't think the Finance Committee would have a fundamental problem if we put some token amount in that direction, but, but you start getting, again, past, it sounds like little money, $10,000-$20,000. That's not a lot of money in a $42 million operation, I know. But I think at this point, we've been at a budget process for a long time now, and if that's one of the, if the selectmen wish to make that a fundamental goal, to put some money in that, I don't have an objection, but keep in mind, it's probably going to have to be from, estimated receipts or some other estimated revenues, because at this point, it would have to come out of an operating budget. That's the problem.
I understand. But it's been something that I've wanted to, and again, I think we need to start doing it
I know.
sooner rather than later. So
Yeah.
if we can do it in the fall, let's do something in the
I
fall.
appreciate that.
And as far as the deficit now, if this paper surplus
Yeah.
is there, then in my opinion, that ought to be applied directly right now to the
And that's
snow and
fine.
ice budget.
I had that conversation with the town accountant today, because, we know what we're looking at in terms of paperwork, but other people may not know the paperwork that we're used to seeing, so someone could have the impression that, well, there's actually money on the table. And
Yes.
there isn't money on the table,
No.
so we do sometimes get stuck in our own little world, and so that would be fine. We'll be happy to make that adjustment immediately, and I'll retransmit this to the
So
Finance Committee.
if you had that, 107,695, plus you hope $200,000 from FEMA, hope.
Well, I don't want to say hope, I know that, well, that's probably, I think, a fair number, either way.
That's 300 of the,
We're-
what's the total deficit?
It's
472.
472,
So
correct.
you have $172,000
Yeah.
more to get there,
Right.
which, that's not as
The- and
bad a
I-
number as it could be.
I'm sorry?
That's not as bad a number as it.
No, and that we would expect that would be easily handled, again, with a certified free cash number. I don't think, it makes no sense to, just because we can, to have a cash flow loan to ourselves for 3 years makes no sense.
Well, that was my objection. If we were only doing it until October,
Yeah.
that's fine,
I-
until we get the figures and we know what's what, but I would not be in favor of
Yeah.
scheduling it out over 3
No.
years. I think that's just making it even worse than what.
Certainly, if it was $1 million on, $1.4 million, we got a little bit of a different problem there,
Yeah.
but no, I would agree.
Kenny, did you have a question?
Yeah, on this deficit reduction worksheet, special town meeting article restoring stabilization funds, 300,000? I thought it was 250. What is it?
Increased.
Then more to, maybe
Yeah,
it's-
that was, again, I'm sorry.
Isn't that article for 250,000 that we're restoring the money back into the
Yeah. Yes, I'm
stabilization?
sorry, yeah, that is correct, yeah, that was,
So we just made
that was
$50,000.
just changed, that was just
Oh, you're
changed.
good.
yeah. Right, but it's, yeah.
That's on paper.
We'll do the math, the final math, and reduce our snow deficit.
157, nice, look at that. If we all make 50,000, but the other point is, we had a policy at the fall town meeting, I think, where we took the free cash and we had like, we did certain percentage this and that. That's
Right, you have a
is that out the window this year?
The goal that the selectmen have is to put 60% of free cash into stabilization, and then use the remaining 40, of the remaining 40, 30% for capital and 10% to pay down OPEB obligations, which makes perfect sense. The problem is the extent of this particular winter. You're either going to do that and have a larger snow deficit, which we're talking about, or you're going to have significant reductions in operating budgets. That's the reality of it, which, and I know it's a philosophical question, to put money in the bank while you're laying people off is,
Now, on this deficit reduction, that certified free cash is last year's certified free cash. right?
That is right, but
Right.
that from
And then-
FY '14,
Then in the fall,
correct.
we're going to get more certified free
Correct.
cash.
Right. As of this coming June 30th.
So in
correct.
reality, that certified free cash that's on this reduction workshop, we didn't use our formula. We're not touching that.
That's correct. You have not.
Kind of-
Special town meeting.
Right, so
That's
if we had had that special town meeting, that figure wouldn't be there anymore. You know, so it's kind of, I mean, I don't know, it's just kind of.
So you'd be borrowing it from the stabilization.
It's fortuitous that, in some ways, but keep in mind, we did it, the special town meeting was for, as you remember, for the school project.
I mean, we're doing something right, I mean, because our bond rating has been improving, and we were able to sock a little bit of money away, but that's kind of all off the table these last year and a half.
Yeah, well, as you know, it's been an extraordinary year, and it's caused a lot of hardship in a lot of communities, not just near and far, so we are fortunate under the circumstances.
It's tough because we're doing a lot of good things, and the layoffs have been really non-existent, as far as I'm aware of, but we're just not able to do the saving or the little bit of putting away like we've done in the past, and that's kind of,
Yeah.
I don't want to use profanities like I did at the last meeting, but that kind of stinks. That's all.
I do have one question.
Yeah, go ahead, I'm sorry.
I don't know where this stands, but should any contracts be finalized between now and town meeting? Is there any funds available, any accommodation?
There is nothing budgeted for contracts. So any contract funding would have to be from existing operational budgets somehow. That's what happens when you have a massive snow deficit, unfortunately, so.
Just needed to ask the question.
So, yeah. Which actually speaks to the Mr. Burbine's point too about, even though we know what we're looking at on paper, some may suggest that there's money that really doesn't exist, so we will certainly make that adjustment, and.
If I might, I know Mr. Burbine has his pet peeve in the snow and ice, and mine has been, since I've been on this board, is the OPEB account. Finally, we did start to put some money away in the trust fund, and I think that absolutely reflected on the memo we got from
Yes.
rate bond agencies that we were paying attention to, $40 million unfunded liability. I don't know that it's fair to say that I would say we're doing okay with the monies we have, but just okay. There's a couple departments, I think, especially the police department, that really, it's dangerous. They don't have enough staff. They're working too many hours, in my opinion. But I don't, we have to look to restore some of those positions. We did the fire department, but right now, those firefighters are, they're well-needed, but they're on a grant. And in a couple of years, that grant runs out. So, here we go again. It's just, I guess ever since Mike Frady has been involved, maybe I'm a bad omen, it goes back to my school committee, but it's always, cut here, cut there. I mean, when I went to school, we had arts, woodworking and stuff in the junior high school, where kids that age really should learn if they want to work with their hands or whatever, and we had all, not all kinds, but we had different languages and different options. Those are all gone out of the schools right now, so I think, again, I'm getting on the pulpit, but I think, so we're not going to be able to put any money aside for the OPEB account?
Right now, there's nothing, if you did, you would have a larger sort of,
No, I
snow
think
deficit.
that's
so
fine, but I
That's
think
the problem. yeah.
just putting everything in the same boat.
Right.
You're looking at the snow and ice, you're looking at the OPEB, you're looking at the condition of some of our, even the schools, some of the staff. We're doing okay with the money we have, but it's still a tough situation. I don't want anybody out there to think that we are rolling in dough, because we're not.
No, and certainly, I know we've all seen, and this is not a criticism of the state, but when the economy's tough, the state's contribution to local education in particular has not kept up with the pace of the
And
costs
they really
associated.
haven't. Local
so-
aid used to be the thing that really kicked
Right,
it down.
so,
the head,
and when you consider how much, and this is almost in every community in the Commonwealth, how much of your revenue stream is out of your hands It makes it very difficult to plan beyond just the next couple of years. It makes it very difficult, so. But I think you've been doing it your entire professional lives in government, so I don't think it's going to change anytime soon, but it is frustrating.
Yep.
I have a concern, a question that you actually brought up, something I was thinking about. I know there was a lot of talk when we received the new fire offices. Was that 3 or 4 fire offices on grant, right, for 3 years? 3 years. I thought we were going to try to save some money in our ambulance reserve. Ambulance, is it reserve?
Right, what the fire chief hopes to do, and his math indicates that once he gets 2 ambulances running 24/7, that he will be in a position to, that the ambulance account will generate enough revenue to pay for those additional positions permanently once the grant expires. That's his goal, that's his expectation, but it does remain to be seen, though.
There's 2 ambulances running currently, right? Or no?
Right, there are 2 ambulances running, but I think they're not running every shift all the time. That's part of the, although the people that have been hired are paramedics that he's hiring, so even though if they're not certified to be firefighters, they can still participate in running the ambulance. But that is the goal, is to run 2 ambulances full-time.
I think it's great, the staffing that's going on at the fire department, and keeping the other station open. I would just hate to see in 3 years not be enough money to generate keeping these officers on. So that's just a concern. I don't know if we can start to have a policy that we start to save up money in those accounts, because we don't have to spend those down every year. We can start saving that money in
No,
the accounts.
but effectively, the money has to be recurring anyway, or you're just going to create deficits that are going to pile up. I mean, you really do have to have a recurring fund that funds positions, and if you were able to save some money, and that's one thing, but once it's gone, and so you're into the same situation. I think the chief hopes to demonstrate that he will generate enough recurring funds by not having to call, not having to use ambulances from other towns to pick up the shifts that are not being staffed right now with 2 ambulances, that he can pick up enough revenue, keeping the I hate to say it this way, but the business in town, because, it's, that will generate enough money to fund those positions permanently. That's what he believes is the case, but we won't know until that time comes, but it's a valid point.
And through you, Mr. Chairman, has the Finance Committee voted on any numbers yet?
No, they begin their deliberations on their recommendations tomorrow night. They're set for tomorrow night and Wednesday night to
Right,
meet.
and they either brought up the idea about the more funding for the town clerks, or you brought that up, or you worked with them on that?
Yes. Well, I haven't worked with them on it. I've worked with Leanne on it.
Right. But they're aware of it.
They are. I did, I transmitted this to the chairman of the Finance Committee with an explanation, and again, I think it's one of those situations that, again, it's been noted in the past. I pointed it out in January. We can't, in fact, one of the it may have even been this one, one of my concerns that I've expressed to the board is the same one Mike raised about, we do have to start addressing our police staffing. There's no question about it. But this administrative issue is really, goes to some kind of fundamental issues in terms of people's access to the election process, as well as the fact that there's nobody in place who can, by statute, do what the town clerk does in her absence, or so to have an assistant town clerk, you can't just call somebody an assistant. Somebody has to be trained to do that, and so I find that to be one of the, if we can address that small administrative upgrade right now, I think we've at least had a little success in this budget process, so.
I also think that speaks volumes to the working relationship, Mr. Schaefer, the school superintendent.
Absolutely,
and
yeah.
willing to work. I think the relationship between the town boards, especially the school department and
Right.
and our board and you folks has improved drastically over the years, so
Yeah.
I commend.
Well, I thank you, and I think that that's been going on for several years. I wish I could take full credit for that. I can't, but it's definitely an asset in this town that, as you know, isn't the case everywhere.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, number 9 is Town Manager's Report. Did you cover that?
Just briefly, the Memorial Arch, I think you all have some idea as to what's going on, but the bronze restoration work actually is now completed. The staging should be coming down by the end of the week. So that's obviously good news. And as you know, Mr. Ulwick is our project manager for that, and he's made it clear that any cleanup work, masonry work that may have to be dealt with after the bronze work will be dealt with forthwith, too. So we couldn't have a better representative on that project. So, as you all know, at this point, Mr. Leo Provost, our treasurer-collector, has provided me with his notice of retirement effective in a date in August. I think you all knew it was coming eventually. He's going to be very tough to replace. At this point, we haven't, discussed plans, but I just thought you should know as soon as possible, because you all see Leo around town. You can congratulate him, razz him, whatever you choose to do, but...
You don't think we're going to accept it, do you?
That's actually not a bad, I actually didn't pose that question to him. It hasn't been accepted yet, so maybe, I'm sorry, I lost my place here.
3.
Thank you. The Chestnut Street redesign of that intersection at North Quincy is moving forward. As you all know, this is primarily a Brockton project. Most of that is in Brockton. However, we are a party to that, and there is a meeting coming up in the near future that Mr. Keenan will be attending regarding the potential options up there. One of the other issues that they may be discussing at some point is any apportionment they may be looking for from Abington's Chapter 90 funds for the funding of whatever happens up there. I'm not saying that's a given, but that's a possibility in the future. That could be a discussion point. But as you know, these are very long processes, but that it does continue to move forward. Animal control, I've given you brief updates before, but we are continuing to work with Whitman and Hanson on a possible joint program. As you know, Bob Hammond continues to work for us, and he, in my opinion, does a wonderful job, but he's even questioned himself how much longer he can continue. He hasn't given us any, he hasn't resigned or anything like that, and so this is not in any way a reflection on his work whatsoever.
Would Leo be able to take over?
Well, only if he works less than a certain amount of hours, I believe, so, that's all I have, Mr. Chairman, at this time.
Thank you. I just want to comment on the police conducted the 5K road race, the annual 5K road race, and it once again was a tremendous, Sandy, did you participate?
Yes, I
There was
did.
over 500, I heard.
Alex was there?
Yeah.
Yeah, Alex.
Yeah.
I mean,
I didn't run, believe me.
No, I tell you what, I sat and I watched them go by. I just got tired watching them run. It was just...
You didn't have to say that.
Okay. Any other comments from the board? All right.
Our next meeting is June 2nd.
Sometime the week.
To be confirmed whether it's June 2nd or 3rd. Right now, we're targeting June 2nd, and of course, depends upon
Yeah, especially if we can fulfill all our obligations to the
Right,
water, the
if we
sewer, and
can.
the boards and committees.
Right, but just to be clear, the goal is to be able to handle the school and water commission votes, too, to do this
Correct.
all at once. That's the primary
So, I mean,
driving goal
that's
there.
gonna, sounds like a very full agenda, too, because we'll be voting on our budget recommendations at that point, too?
That would be the
Article
intent.
recommendations.
But that would be the extent of
and
the
all the
agenda.
appointments and the joint meetings with the other boards.
And we have a, I mean, I guess we
executive
could
session.
postpone, well, not the sewer and the water, but we could postpone the other ones till the middle of June, but they do have to be in place by July 1st, the boards and commission.
I think you underestimate your efficiency, Mr. Chairman.
It's not,
No, Kenny was efficient. I'm more.
I think we could do
Yeah,
it.
I think we can get through those.
Let's get it over with.
Okay, everybody's all right with that?
We have to check with school, right, to see if they can
Yes.
also meet.
Check the school, we have to check and make sure that, and then we have to notify anybody that's looking technically by the book for reappointment. I don't necessarily reappointments have to be here, but
Yeah, no.
according to our
Not in your
policy.
policy, no.
so. Okay, public comment, we have none, except a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Ms. Jansen, motion to adjourn, second by Mr. Burbine, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, it's unanimous, thank you very much.
Thank you.